Good afternoon or good morning to everyone. And, welcome to this very brief introduction to the three principles of the path. My friend Eric, who is here, a few weeks ago sent me a teaching that Gelek Rinpoche gave on this text, and it's 300 pages long. So I'm just letting you know that this has to be just touching on the importance of this. And it's been kind of a challenge to work with this material in such a short amount of time. And so I've sort of decided to make it more experiential and just hit kind of the main ideas, because what I'd like to share with you is the relevance of these teachings that are 500, 600 years old today. And so I'll just say a little bit, and then we'll just launch into the traditional prayers, because it's good to do that, to put the imprints on our mind and clear the obstacles. And then I'd like to lead a little meditation, because my whole kind of emphasis in Tibetan Buddhism is experiential, because my most inspiring teacher, and who inspired me to leave my life and enter a different life, was of course Lama Tsongkhapa. And his whole emphasis was on experience. And that isn't to say that we don't need to study. We do need to study. But once we've studied and get some understanding, what's really important is transformation. And he was very interested in transformation, and so am I. And so I don't usually give these kinds of philosophical talks. I usually lead meditations. So this is, like I said, it's been a little challenging for me, and particularly because I have so little time. But I think we'll just have fun, because that's the main thing, is have fun and see how we go. And so we'll read the prayers, and then I just thought I would do hopefully a short, maybe 15-minute meditation on refuge and bodhicitta. And then we can read the three principal aspects of the path, three principles of the path, with the short introduction. So maybe I'll just do a little bit of introduction now, which is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Lama Tsongkhapa. Maybe I could just see a raise of hands of, the people who know Lama Tsongkhapa. I'm assuming, I guess what I should say is, are there any real beginners here today? People who don't know who Lama Tsongkhapa is, who are new to Tibetan Buddhism? It would be, because then I try to gear my talk in sort of more that direction. But I think what's important to know is that Lama Tsongkhapa was like a second Buddha. He was an amazing, amazing teacher. And not only was he one of the greatest philosophers that ever lived, he was also one of the greatest yogis. And I think a lot of people don't know, because we study his philosophical side, that he was a yogi, as much of a yogi as Milarepa or Padmasambhava. And the thing about Lama Tsongkhapa, though, is he was very interested in not being a guru and downplaying any kind of magical powers or cities, even though he had them. And he showed them a few times. For example, one time they used to teach outside, and he was sitting on top of a mountain and teaching, because they had these big booming voices, and to all the people, the hundreds of people down below, and this big landslide started coming down the mountain, and everyone was going to be killed, and Lama Tsongkhapa just went like that. And so that was and it stopped. And that was just one of the few times he actually showed his realizations. And when he was invited to go to be the gurus for the Chinese emperors, he declined. And he spent many years in retreat, surviving on 3 meals of 1 juniper berry each. And that's when he did, 1.3 3 million, is that what it, yeah, I think more than 30 prostrations of 35 Buddhas, not just individuals, but the whole thing, like millions of times, and like 600 million mandala offerings. But the most important thing is that, of course, he was able to attain enlightenment. And even that he postponed until the Bardo, because he was so interested in downplaying anything magical or powerful, and his, as you know, in the Gelugpa, the emphasis is on outer morality and behaving very subdued and following the 10 virtuous activities and not being an outrageous yogi, although they say, on the outside, a moral monk, and inside, bodhisattva, and secretly a tantric practitioner. And he was a great, great tantric practitioner who illuminated particularly the teachings on the illusory body. And the learned ones from all the schools of Tibetan Buddhism study Lama Tsongkhapa's. And there's, of course, some debate about his emptiness teachings, but probably what he's most famous for is his teachings on dependent origination. And this was a slightly different way of looking at emptiness. And rather than saying, things are not non-existent, but they're not existent, and we can sort of intuit that, he actually had a very clear way of looking at dependent origination. Things are dependent arising, and because they're dependent arising, that's what makes them empty. And because they're empty, that's what makes them dependent arising. And so we won't be able to get into that too much in 2 sessions, but that is the teaching on emptiness that makes emptiness easy to understand when we investigate. And so, and I mean, that is intellectually, and then it takes years and years and years to actually bring it into our experience. But we can begin to understand emptiness rather quickly because of Lama Tsongkhapa. So he's really, really a special teacher. And I think he's, besides his teachings on Tantra, which are renowned, he also, of course, taught the Lam Rim, which we all study in our Gelugpa. It's like the most important text that we study. And the long version of the Lam Rim is now available in English and has been for some time. And so is the middle length version. And then he did a shorter one, which is the foundation of all good qualities. And then his shortest Lam Rim is what we're going to read today. And so I think he made a short one so that we could memorize it and work with it and meditate on it and study it and use it as like slogans or bullet points, for lack of a better word, to go through the Lam Rim, to continue, because what's so important in our tradition isn't just study. We've heard so many times, we have to study, we have to contemplate, we have to meditate. And so this particular text is a very good one for meditating on Lam Rim because it's so short. And what it encourages us to do is read a line or read a verse and then contemplate on it and think about it and put it in our own words and see how it applies to our life today. And then once we get some feeling about that, then we do a stabilizing meditation and sit with it. And that is how the Lam Rim becomes your daily experience and transforms your life. So this is why this is an important text. And yeah, so I've never taught on this before. So, and people don't usually ask me to even teach Lam Rim. So this is kind of fun. It's not that I haven't studied Lam Rim. I have done quite a bit of Lam Rim retreat myself, so. But anyway, so that's kind of my introduction to Lama Tsongkhapa. And then, of course, we always start with our motivation. So I think in this day and age, it's very easy to find a motivation to practice Dharma. So maybe I'll just share a little bit about myself, although I don't know, that's a very long introduction she gave. But because it relates to the 3 principal aspects of the path. When I was about 16, I participated in the very first Earth Day, you know, a big march with thousands of people. And we all got involved in trying to save the planet. And I went to university studying environmental science and how to save the, you know, how we were going to try to do something, because in 50 years time, we were going to have floods and fires and hungry people and refugees. And this was all going to happen in 50 years. And now it's here because we weren't able to stop it. And so when I was that young, by the time I got to be about 18, I realized that what we need are three main things. And the first one was we need to learn how to be satisfied inside. Because if we can be satisfied inside, then we can do something about our consumer society and the fact that our economic system is continually making us feel like we're not good enough. So we'll continually buy things, which is, of course, destroying our oceans, melting the ice caps. It's our consumerism. So it's like we have to find some counter to consumerism, right? And then the other one is, not only is it there's greed, but we're selfish. So we need to find some way to help people begin to think about other people. You know, how are we going to develop altruism? We need to find some way to change our culture, you know? And then as I began to study at university, and what I studied was ecology, which is actually the science of dependent origination. It's how everything's connected to everything else. And the reason I was studying that was, and I was working with a professor who was helping, although he started out as a life scientist, he taught epistemology, a way of thinking, because he, like me and all of our, you know, this group of people at Berkeley, were very concerned about finding alternative technologies and alternative ways of working with our society and our need to consume and our need to have jobs, and in such a way that wasn't going to cause the destruction that we see today. And so for that, we needed to learn how to think outside the box. We needed to learn to have a different, higher state of consciousness, a higher state of awareness, so that when we thought about, you know, usually we have rationalist, reductionist thinking. So when we thought, you know, if I, like he said one time that I could ask some engineers to build a tunnel or a pipe that would pipe blood, you know, from Israel to London, they would do it because they were never thinking about the big picture, and they would never think about what is the result of this technological development. And so he was seeking a way to get people to think about dependent origination. So those were the three things, you know, how can we be satisfied? How can we be altruistic? And how can we learn how everything's dependent on everything else? So there it was, you know, and so when I met Lama Yeshe a few years later, it was like, this is it, you know, this is what the world needs. And so I feel like our job is, and Lama said it was our job, is to bring this information out of the cloak of esoteric Buddhist religious foreign culture and make it mainstream. Because it's, you know, I don't know if it's too late, but I just feel like this information is not just about ourselves. It's not about religion, you know, it's about our planet. And the people, I mean, the planet is definitely going to live on without us, but it's going to be a different form of life because we're destroying the cause of life on this planet. And so to me, this is the importance of these teachings. So I just wanted to share that at the beginning. And so now let's do our traditional stuff, because, you know, the only way to learn is to learn from the tradition. But once we've learned their tradition, then we need to find a way to communicate with people who can't sit and wear red robes and read Tibetan, and, you know, that's our job. So, but here we are. You know, I used to think when I was younger, when I was studying classical dance, it was like, well, you have to learn classical dance before you can be a jazz person. And you have to learn classical music before you can be a really good jazz musician. So I think you have to learn classical Tibetan Buddhism before you can really bring it out into the world. And that's what FPMT is good at. And now we have FDCW and all these different kinds of things. So I'm very much watching the clock. So let's just do the prayers. With this motivation that not only are we ultimately attaining enlightenment, but we're striving to create a culture of where people are satisfied and safe and altruistic and have a higher quality of perception, a higher level of how we think, how we feel, that it's not just linear A, B, C. You know, we need to go this way, you know, and this way and this way. So that's my motivation this morning, or wherever we are this afternoon. So, okay, let's go. Prayers. Oh, this one. Okay, cool. So you can chant this along with me. I haven't done this in a long time, but I used to do it here. So I thought, Om, please come. Great hero, the teacher of pure words, creation, destruction, self-arisen, the wisdom of emptiness, and that alone. Om, please come. Great hero, the teacher of pure words, creation, destruction, self-arisen, the wisdom of emptiness, and that alone. Om, please come. Great hero, the teacher of pure words, creation, destruction, self-arisen, the wisdom of emptiness, and that alone. And we'll do the prayers in English. To the founder, praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the complete, perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. When on supreme amongst humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and then said, I am supreme of this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies from a pure wisdom ocean like a golden ocean, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees from one attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime, pure reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. To those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field quality with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma's refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of a dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time, the Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vulture's Mountain in Rajgir together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no objective touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. There is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obstruction and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance upon the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Taya ta om gate gate perasam gate bodhisoha. O Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated, and even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharat Bhariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. The prayer to the lion-faced Dakini. I prostrate to the gathering of Dakinis in the three chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Akasamarata Sara Samarayape. Taya ta om gate gate perasam gate bodhisoha. By the teaching of the three rare sublime jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer inner hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. Shantan Kuriye Soha. May all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of the 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be happiness and perfect happiness here right now. We're not going to do the foundational good qualities because we're reading the three principles of the path. So we'll do the short mandala offering. And remember, when we do this, we're just offering everything in the whole universe, and particularly all the stuff we really find blissful. And Lama Zopa always says that we're offering bliss and emptiness. It's not just a mandala. I guess we can do this in Tibetan. Oh, Sajipuki Jushin Meto Tram Riram Yan Padi Sangejin Tu Mite Oar O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release the rain of vast and profound Dharma precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. And please bless my mind, the mind of all sentient beings, to be free from all the wrong views, gain all the realizations, and be free from all obstacles and hindrances. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. We'll do this 2 times in Tibetan and 1 time in English. Sangye chodan soki chodam la janchu bardu dagni kyabsuti dagi chuni ki pesonam ki drola penje sangye drupa sho sangye chodan soki chodam la janchu bardu dagni kyabsuti dagi chuni ki pesonam ki drola penje sangye drupa sho. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Actually, we can just get rid of the screen for a minute because we're going to do a meditation now on refuge and bodhicitta. Because I feel personally that refuge is very much connected to renunciation. That when we have refuge, then it's very easy to feel safe and protected. And when we feel safe and protected, we don't need to look outside of ourselves to find that inner peace. So I think refuge is a really important practice. And I really encourage you not to just say it 3 times and move on. So let's just take a moment to visualize object of refuge. So in this case, we can imagine Lama Tsongkhapa. And he's a handsome monk with a yellow hat. And he's in the mudra of giving sublime. It's like, we'll visualize him like Tara, you know. The left hand is granting sublime realizations, and his right hand is granting fearlessness. And in his heart is Buddha Shakyamuni, because in actual fact, they're one and the same. And if you're a tantric practitioner, you can also imagine Buddha Vajradhara as well inside of Shakyamuni's heart. And if you want to make it more elaborate, that's completely up to you. And so if we think about why we would take refuge, it's pretty much the same as why we would develop renunciation. Because we've recognized the shortcomings of not only being caught up in just only the material world. There's nothing wrong with material world, but if that's all there is, then there's not real chance for satisfaction and inner peace and a connectedness. So it's rather like the Four Noble Truths, you know, we see the reality of our lives, and it takes ruthless honesty sometimes to really look at ourselves. And when we have refuge, it makes it easier to look at who we really are. Because when we have refuge, we feel loved. There's a being out there, and maybe I can't see him, but he's still around. And you could also think that perhaps he's the same as if you do have a root guru, but it's not really. I mean, it's great if you do have a real person, but we can also find a lot of solace and refuge with imagined Buddhas, because There is such a thing as lineage, and there is such a thing as the subtle mind that exists in the universe. And as we begin to understand neuroscience more and more, we're going to understand this more and more. So we can think of the Supreme Being that looks at us with total unconditional love and acceptance. And we can sit there and just be ourselves. You don't have to feel bad or whatever's going on, you know. When we start Refuge, it's just being present. And we begin to notice our body, notice our breathing, maybe notice our feet and our knees and our legs, and feeling our sitting bones on the cushion. And maybe bring our awareness down to the base of our spine as we breathe. We can breathe in and feel that breath, imagining it goes right to the base of the spine. And as we exhale, that energy goes into the earth, connecting us with our earth, with our most primordial grounding connection. And notice our pelvis. You might want to move it forward, back. How is that adjusting? We're always told that it's good to meditate with a straight back. Doesn't be too straight. We don't have to hold ourselves still, you know. We can always move when we're meditating. It's not something about being still. We can allow the breath to move us from the inside, lifting our rib cage, lifting the collarbones, allowing the shoulders to relax, allowing the face to relax, and recollecting the presence of Lama Tsongkhapa with this incredible love for us and this total understanding of their true nature of reality, completely gone beyond ordinary view. That's our ultimate refuge. But along the way, you know, we need to feel safe. We need to feel protected. And the ultimate refuge is, of course, understanding the two truths. But that's also the ultimate renunciation. Because when we understand that, it's very easy to let go. And when we feel that love, it makes it very easy to love ourselves, very easy to forgive others, make our life easygoing, as Lama Yeshe would say. Lama would always say, look at your life. If you become more easygoing, then you're practicing Dharma. So just take a moment and just imagine that we're going to focus on our breath. And as we breathe in, we're breathing in this energy. You can see a rainbow light or a white light or a yellow light, whatever you want to visualize, coming into the crown of your head and filling up your whole body with this sense of being protected and loved. And whatever you understand of emptiness, just this ability to be present. You don't have to think anything, just focus on the breath, on the body, and just imagine this pouring blessing of Lama Tsongkhapa is coming in to you. As we focus on the breath and in the body, slowly, slowly with skill, the tendency to have conceptual thinking begins to fall away. Especially when we add the next component, which is bodhicitta. So we imagine, just like we're taught, our father on our right, our mother on our left, all our friends all around us, a sea of sentient beings. And so then this sense of protection and care, we begin to share and focus on, not only is it pouring into us with our inhales, but with our exhales, going out through all our pores, touching all the people who are struggling with the pandemic, who are struggling with finances, who are living under authoritarian regimes, who have no freedom, who live in polluted places and cannot leave, who are living with the threat of war, homelessness, hunger, the animals. If you believe in the spirits and the other beings. And maybe focus on one scenario that actually touches your heart, whether it's something very sad, bringing about compassion, or whether it's someone you really love. Without trying, just allow something to come to mind that touches your heart, touches my heart. So now, still focusing on the breathing, we're just breathing in safety, quiet, emptiness, if that's available to us. And as we breathe out on the wings of that love that's inspired by a truly enlightened being who has completely unconditional love, total forgiveness, complete gratitude. It helps sometimes to think about gratitude. And we share that out, and we can feel our subtle body just getting bigger and bigger and spreading, just like a sun, as if we were the sun, shining bodhicitta to all sentient beings. We allow that to touch our heart where there's the joy spot, the tender spot. So that not only are we sharing love, but it kind of brightens up everything about us, and we feel a little bit of joy going out. As we feel our muscles continuing to relax, a smile on our face, as we just bathe in Lama Tsongkhapa's blessing and sharing that with all sentient beings. And if our mind has settled somewhat doing this, then we'll take a moment. That can keep going on. It's just sort of in the background now. It's kind of like when you're driving a car, we're paying attention to the scenery going by, but we're also focusing on driving. So continuing to let the breath come in and share with sentient beings. Then we can begin to look at our mind just a little bit, a little part, pay attention, especially if you have some skill where there's a bit of gap between your thoughts. If not, it's fine. But let's just, for a moment, pay attention to the fact that we have a subject. Generally, there's, me sitting here meditating on refuge and bodhicitta. There's kind of a separation between I and other. My meditation for sentient beings. And just for a moment, we can imagine we can suspend that into there just being a pure awareness. And one way to investigate, something I learned from Kali Rinpoche actually, is it's a little analysis. It's a little different from our Lama Tsongkhapa style, but I find it helpful. So we can think, here we've identified the fact that there's a subject and an object, right? There's me meditating on sentient beings, feeling Lama Tsongkhapa's blessing. This is my refuge in bodhicitta. And then we can think, because we perceive an inherently existent object, that's what's outside the sentient beings, Lama Tsongkhapa. Because we perceive this inherently existent object, we think we are misperceiving, or we're missing the pure clarity of mind. So imagine that faculty of experiencing the object, but dropping the object. There's just a spacious clarity of mind. That's the space, the ground in which that object arises. Yes used to say it's a bit like space. And then, with a little corner of our eye, of our mind, the mindfulness fish, we look at the self, the I that's experiencing this clarity. And because we experience that as separate, as inherently existent, separate from that clarity, we miss the emptiness of I. But in actual fact, it's one totality. Mom used to use that word too, totality, or zero, you would say. And then just open your eyes and look around the room. Don't think about anything. Just open your eyes for a minute. And just notice if you feel anything at all. Doesn't matter if you do or not. And then we can just relax. Can't concentrate too long. So for me, this is how you practice the 3 principles of the path, so that they become something that moves you and transforms your experience. Because for me, I did all these retreats and I studied all this stuff. I did like 4 years of Yamataka retreat, right? Millions and zillions of Yamataka mantras. But in the end, I decided what it's all about is the 3 principles, and they are loving yourself, loving others, and letting go. Now, is that like baby kindergarten or what, But it's kind of like that, And of course, you can go on and on about what that is, but all the lamas say, if we don't love ourselves, we can't begin to love others. And I think that, and I'll talk about it maybe the next time, but that's a really crucial aspect of Dharma in the West, is learning to be okay with who we are and learning how to work with who we are so that we can begin to let go of the conditioning that we have that tells us that we aren't okay, or that has us, we get caught up in habitual reactions to things that we don't really want to do, but we're stuck, So through refuge, and to me, that's what this renunciation is about, is how we can become an inner being. And the thing is, to become an inner being, we need to be able to just sit and be quiet. And for so many of us, that's very difficult, because if we sit down, not only is our mind racing, but our mind doesn't want to stop racing, because then we'd have to feel how we feel about who we are. And for so many of us, it's not so great if we really, we have a cover, we all have our persona that we've developed and we can do this and that, but when we actually start to do deeper meditation, we begin to uncover this sense. And some of us, it's more obvious than others. And so for me, that's why refuge is so important, because by allowing ourselves to create that safety and to experience, like bodhicitta is such a great practice, we can re-experience these imprints that are in our brains, and let them go and put them within another context, which is what therapy does. But we can also do that with bodhicitta, with knowing that there's this greater being that loves us, and how we want to love others. So that's why renunciation is so important. And before we read the text, which we will in just a minute, I just wanted to say something else about this, is that they're not separate. There's not like renunciation is one department and bodhicitta is one department and emptiness is another department. And I was trying to sort of show that through the meditation, that actually you do all 3 at the same time. We're taking refuge, we're experiencing bodhicitta, and we're letting go, experiencing the clarity and emptiness of self and other within the context of this inner sense of self-love and other love. So the thing is that in order to kind of transcend our what I call two-dimensional learning, which is what we all do in school. You learn something, you spit it out, and you can take a test, and now you know how to do this, But what Buddhism is talking about is three-dimensional learning. We want to transform our inner world, our inner experience, and we can point at it with the two-dimensional stuff. That's why we study philosophy, why we study Lamrim. But in the end, that's what that's why retreat's so important, is because the three principles are three aspects of one experience. And when you meditate enough to get that experience, that's the transformation. That's the ground of what eventually becomes Buddhahood. It's the ground, what they say, ground, we have the ground and the path and the fruit. Well, just to get that real ground that is non-conceptual, that is non-intellectual, we have to work with these three principles to get this experience that's a felt sense, that's beyond the conceptual mind, although we can try to explain it that way. But when we experience it, it's just this, like this, as Lama would say, it's just this big heart, And so I tried to, I thought of this example. It's like an orange. What is an orange? An orange is orange, and it's juicy and it's tasty. But when you think of it, it's an orange, isn't it? So those are the three principles of the orange, So the three principles of the enlightened mind, of the bodhicitta mind, is letting go, emptiness, caring for others, and learning to be happy with who you are. Because, if we learn to let go, then we're taught all these different things, like death is coming, and we have a perfect human rebirth, and we have to, practice karma, and all these things are to point us in that direction, so that we, abandoning the 8 worldly dharmas, it's all about not so much, that we're bad people, we have to be good people, but it's like, if we are still attracted to the sense pleasures, eyes, including the mind, if we're still attracted to those things, it's because they're still inherently existent. And if we're still attracted to those things, then we will spend our time getting those things. And we will not spend our time cultivating the enlightened mind, which is beyond those things. So it's not that stuff is bad. It's not that relationships are bad. It's not that, ice cream isn't bad. All that stuff is great. It's just, it's limited. It's limited to the conceptual 5, 6 senses. And what we want to do in Dharma is to go deeper than that. So there's nothing wrong with those things. Renunciation, there's nothing wrong. It's just that we want to develop the inner being that can appreciate those things. Those of you who knew Lama Yeshe, it was just amazing. Lama Yeshe would pick up a raisin. And his whole body would just explode in bliss, with one raisin, and we could all feel it in the room because he was so blissed out. And it wasn't, there's nothing wrong with raisins and ice cream and whatever, But the point is that as long as we're still chasing that stuff, we don't create the time to create our inner being, which is what gives us the leisure and the openness to realize the two truths, because that's what we want. We want to understand the two truths, and we want to understand the two truths not separately, but simultaneously, so that when we see something, when I look at you, I can see the form is empty and emptiness is form. I can see these things, but simultaneously, I know that they're just arising due to causes and conditions, to parts, and because I'm labeling them. And so it takes time to train ourselves to do that. And so the whole reason we have renunciation is to help us want to get that, So let's read the prayer, because I think we're about out of time. Maybe that's it. Maybe we could just do one session. Okay, so let's read it. And actually, next week I'll go through it. Next week, that was like my introduction. And next week, we'll go through it verse by verse and I'll say a few things about it. Okay. So, yeah, so we can all read it together. We don't need to read the headings. We'll just read the verses. So it's the Three Principles of the Path by Lama Je Tsongkhapa. So we'll read it out loud together. I bow down to my perfect gurus, the essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the path praised by all the victors and their children, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. This I shall try to explain as much as I can. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who trust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones. You fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. Without the complete intention, definitely to be free from circling, there is no way to pacify attachment seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by craving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, seek renunciation. Freedom and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearance of this life is reversed. By thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearance of future lives is reversed. When, by having trained in that way, there is no arising, even for a second, of attraction to the perfection of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Even if renunciation has been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. Swept away by the current of the four powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the three sufferings, thinking that all mothers are in such a condition, generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. In short, if, like the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire, and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity, your reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible for you to bear the suffering for even 1 second. And the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort. Then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. Without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you have generated renunciation in the mind of enlightenment, you cannot cut the root cause of circling. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. One who sees the cause and effect of all phenomena of both cyclic existence and the state beyond sorrow as forever unbetraying, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind has completely disappeared, has at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddhas. If the appearance of dependent relation, which is unbetraying, is accepted separately from emptiness, then as long as they are seen as separate, then one has still not realized the Buddha's intent. If these two realizations are happening simultaneously without alteration, and for merely seeing dependent relation as completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent. At that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. Furthermore, appearance eliminates the extreme of existence, and emptiness eliminates the stream of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by wrong notions holding extreme views. In this way, you realize exactly the vital points of the three principal aspects of the path. Resort to seeking solitude generate the power of effort, and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. So if you have time, and I will do the same, if you could read this once a day, this next week, then it will be a lot more meaningful when we go over it next, because we'll be more familiar with it. And you might have some questions, and I'll try to, any parts that aren't so easy to understand. And maybe, because, this is Lama Tsongkhapa's translation too. So I think we can be really grateful because, he knows he's a really good translator. And one time he told me, because I asked him, is it possible to give lungs in English? And he said, only if the translator's been really good. So we can have faith that this is a good translation. And I'm gonna, are there questions? Does anybody have questions? Doesn't look like it, does it? Well, that's interesting. Okay, well then, I just thought I'd start with the beginning because we have a little bit of time. We have about 10 more minutes. But if somebody thinks of a question, what do they do? Put them in the chat? Is that the plan? Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer, by the way. It's really nice to see you. She's so lovely. So it says, I bow down to my perfect gurus. And a lot of people are kind of having, why, what's the point? What's the guru thing, And I think that I can just tell you from my own experience and from the experience of others that it's so inspiring to know a realized being. It's just so inspiring to see that there is a possibility to change and to become ever more compassionate and ever more wise and ever more understanding and ever more flexible and ever more forgiving and ever more grateful and ever more joyful, and the things that we see in our teachers. And so I think it's important to have faith, not blind faith, but the kind of believing faith or clear faith. They talk about it in the Lama Rim, there's 3 types of faith, And so the aspiring faith and the clear faith, the believing faith, those are not just blind faith, they're based on our experience that we've seen a being who walks the talk. And that's why it's so important, if you're going to be a teacher, that you have to walk the talk. You have to really abandon the 10 non-virtues, at least say that, And if you're a Western person or an Eastern person that has, psychological things that cause you to not do that, then get some therapy, do something about it, Because these teachings are so precious, and I don't know what's going to happen with the human race, but right now it's looking a bit dire, So I think it's really important that if we do make it through the next century, that the Dharma is preserved, And we need people who not just know it in their minds or in books. We need people who walk the talk. And so when you've met somebody who does that, it's really, really inspiring, and it makes you want to do that too. And also another reason for a guru is there is definitely a blessing that comes when you sit in a room with a more advanced being. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, said that within his lifetime, science was going to be able to identify the subtle blessings, the subtle, this way we're connected. I mean, we all know, and it's happened in the pandemic even more, that quite often you think of a friend and they call you, or what I've really noticed is the Zoom has taught me that I really feel connected to people on Zoom. It's not just like looking at pictures, I can feel them and so there is a realm of thought or energy or something where we're all connected, and it's not just humans. I think we're also connected to trees and animals. And, if you look at more animistic societies, that's what they believed. And I think we made a mistake when we became so theistic that nothing mattered but and then on top of the theism came the rationalism, where all that got thrown out because it's so rich. And so that's why I did the refuge thing, because if you can, really begin to imagine that Lama Tsongkhapa is there, and it's my experience that you actually will feel some kind of blessing. And if you know someone to connect that to a human being, that's even better. But I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. And I'd just like to say one more thing too, is if you get involved with a teacher and then you find out that maybe they don't walk the talk so well, that's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. It's not, it just means that that person, we're all humans. Even gurus are human, They come into this world, and even if they might have the label reincarnated being, when they come in to this life with that subtle body, they get the same gross 5 aggregates that we have. So they deal with sickness and they deal with psychological stuff too. They can be traumatized. They can have a hard life. So that means that they can also manifest in ways that we might not think should be befitting of a guru. And does that mean they're not special beings? I think they still are special beings. But maybe what it means is we don't have to be close to that person, but it doesn't mean that we let it go, or that we feel like, oh, the Dharma's there's no more Dharma because this person isn't behaving properly, because I feel like we have to have compassion for them as much as anybody else. And if they're Tibetan refugees that have been traumatized and had a rough time, or a Western teacher that, had trouble as a child, and maybe they speak really well, but they don't act right, well, maybe that doesn't have to be your teacher, but it doesn't mean you can't listen to a lecture, or you can't, I wouldn't entrust my life to that, but in the end, really the point of the guru is not that they want puppets. They don't want people coming to them saying, what should I do? And where do I go? And, please wipe my bum, it's not that at all. They're to guide us to experiencing the taste of that orange, that experience of the 3 principles as one unit. That's our wisdom, that's our inner guru. And so the purpose of the outer guru is to introduce you over time. It's like, they're like training wheels, when you're going to ride a bicycle, and when you're 3 and you get those little training wheels, and when you get better, they can take them off. Well, it's the same. That's what the guru is about. It's not that we have to do everything the guru says, or we're going to go to hell. It's not about that at all. It says right in the 50 verses of Guru devotion, if you don't like what he or she's told you to do, you just very politely say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And one thing that Lama Yeshe emphasized over and over all the time is we'd say, dear. Remember? We'd say, dear, And quite often when you'd go to Lama Yeshe, he would just kind of approve of what you wanted to do. I'm sure he told, other people that. And I'm not saying I haven't followed advice from my gurus. Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, guided me for years, saying, do this, do that, and the other. And because I felt like I didn't have any wisdom, I would want them to tell me what to do. But about 20 years ago, Lama Zopa said, I'm not going to tell you what to do anymore. You got to figure it out, honey, And so at some point, and I think it was a bit of a, it's a step. It's like, well, I'm going to have to trust my own wisdom, even if I make a mistake, So the guru is really an important part of not only because of the inspiration, but also the blessing. I want to just mention lineage. Lineage is the thing that's so remarkable about Tibetan Buddhism, which for me sets it aside from other, not only the fact we have emptiness teachings, but what it sets aside from other disciplines is these pure lineages that were kept in Tibet. Because that means, that, okay, I have my teacher and he had his teacher and he has his teacher, and they're doing their very best to transmit not just the words, but the taste of that orange, the taste of the chocolate, the experience of three principles of the path, not just being able to recite it, but to live it. And that is something very, very precious because, and again, I don't know how to explain it, but if you're doing tantric practice, and some of you probably are, and you recite those lineage prayers and you do that and you connect with that lineage, there is something that comes that helps you to love yourself, love others, and let go, which will then bring you a calm mind so that you can concentrate on the teachings. Because what we need is a calm mind. And that's what's so hard to find, which is why refuge is so important, why renunciation is so important these days, is because there's just so much entertainment, and it's all taking us out. It's all taking us out instead of, just the other day, I was taking some teachings from Chökyi Nyingma Rinpoche, and one of his teachings was just turn your eyes inside, look inside, and there's a wealth of bliss to be found right in this body. Lama used to tell us all the time, more bliss than you'll ever find out there, but the difficulty is sitting down and getting through to you. Some of you, I don't think any of you are able to remember, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I was a child and we had TVs, there would be interference on the TV. It would be just like you try to see a TV picture, but there'd all be this, all these like lines moving, horizontal lines, up and down lines, and there would be no picture. It was just like all this stuff, and we would have to play with the TV until you could finally there was Amos and Andy, or, there was the three, my three sons, or whatever we were watching, the Donna Reed show, whatever it was. And it's like that, when we sit down to meditate, it's just, and so, and one of the things, I'm not going to do it, this is just a little class, but, if I do retreats with people, I really try to work with the body, because so much of it is just physical, to get things to calm down so you can actually sit there and be calm and have a mind that can focus on the Dharma, instead of just reading prayers, right? Because I read prayers, goes in one ear and out the other. So I think we're out of time now. So I don't mean to be lecturing too much, but I just wanted to talk about Guru devotion, because that's the very beginning. And there's a reason why Milarepa and everybody always starts with, I bow down to my perfect Guru, because without the teacher, it's really different. Reading a book just does not give you the same experience. So we need living teachers and we need lineage. And man, are we ever fortunate. We have Lama Tsongkhapa's lineage. We are just the most fortunate of the fortunates, because it's amazing. So with that, I'm going to close, and I hope this is okay, because now we have to do our dedications. So, and thank you to Jamyang for being invited me here. I'm sitting up here on a throne, and I've got some friends around, and usually I'm just sitting in my bedroom by myself talking to a screen. So this is a lot better. So thank you, Fabian, and thank you, Adam. And thank you, Sneh, for inviting me to do this. I now have to change glasses. Okay, what do we have here? May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all migratory beings, and in particular, may it cause the essence of perfect, pure Losang Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. In the land encircled by the snow mountains and so forth, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chinrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers, honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Jangchu Samchog Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Kyurchi, Ke Panyam Pa Me Payam, Gone Gondu Pelvarsho. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise, and may that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Tonyi Tawa Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Kyurchi, Ke Panyam Pa Me Payi, Gone Gondu Pelvarsho. So let's just invite, thinking about bodhicitta, feeling bodhicitta in our heart, back to where we started, the guru above us, bodhicitta going out in all directions. And we still have Lama Tsongkhapa here. So let's just imagine now that Lama Tsongkhapa, who's been here this whole time, helping me, it gets very, 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 very small, melts down into a very, very, very golden drop at his heart. It's in essence of Lama Tsongkhapa's enlightened mind, his Dharmakaya mind, comes to the crown of our head and comes down and blesses our body, blesses our speech, and settles into our own heart and stays with us. And we feel a little lotus close up around Lama Tsongkhapa in our heart. And we rejoice how wonderful it is that I have this opportunity to develop this great love, to look inside and examine how my eye appears to exist from his own side, but when I really look, I can't find it anywhere. And how wonderful is that? It means I'm free. Okay, thank you all so much. Nice to see you. It's really nice to see some old friends like Jennifer. I don't think I've seen you in years. And there's Felicity. Oh, and there's Joey. Cool. So anyway, thank you all. And Karina and Eric and Veronica, and I'm sure there's more, but anyway, thank you all so much for coming. And we'll do this again one more time next week. So thank you all and good afternoon.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you all for coming. Come back next week. It's really wonderful, wonderful teaching. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, Karina. Bye, Jan. Martha. John, is John Landau there? Bye, hi, John Landau. John Landau is one of he taught me the Lam Rim. Hi, John Landau. Shit, Colby. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, John. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Paula. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, Sheila.
See you next week.
Bye, Paula.
Okay. Hi, Veronica. I have to say Veronica. Yeah. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Brother John.